The California sun hung low in the late afternoon sky, casting golden streaks across the coastline of Santa Barbara. Monica Reyes, 35 years old and widowed for over a year, stood barefoot on the edge of the warm sand, watching her two daughters laugh and sculpt sandcastles. The ocean behind them sparkled like a field of diamonds, gentle waves lapping at the shore. It was supposed to be a moment of peace, a healing trip after the storm. Earlier that morning they had scattered the ashes of Monica's late husband, Gabriel, over the Pacific waters. Cancer had taken him swiftly, leaving Monica to raise their two daughters alone and battle her own grief in silence. The beach held special meaning for their family. It was the same spot where Gabriel had proposed, where Lena had taken her first steps, and where countless summer memories were made. Monica thought returning would bring some kind of closure. It didn't. The grief hung around her shoulders like a wet coat. Still, she smiled and took a picture of her daughters playing, the wind catching Mira's hair just right, making her look like a painting in motion. "Mommy, can we stay 5 more minutes?" Mira called out. "Of course, sweetie," Monica replied, ruffling her purse in search of her phone. She saw a message flash across the screen, an alert from her friend Megan reminding her to drink water. It was a blazing day. Monica wiped the sweat from her brow and decided to walk just a few yards to a beachside vendor for bottled water and juice for the girls. "Stay right here," she told them, pointing. "I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere." Lena gave a dramatic salute. "Yes, ma'am." Monica chuckled, her heart swelling at their playfulness. She turned and walked less than 30 yards to the vendor. The stand was rustic, shaded by a bright red umbrella, and run by an older couple who chatted warmly as they handed Monica her drinks. She thanked them, paid, and turned around. She couldn't have been gone more than 3 minutes. But when her eyes swept back toward the beach, the exact spot where Lena and Mira had been building their sandcastle, it was empty. The sand was disturbed, the little pink shovel Mira had been using half buried, but her daughters were gone. Monica froze. Her heart thumped so hard she could feel it in her ears. She scanned left and right, up the dunes, down the shore. Nothing. No response. She sprinted to the sandcastle remains, dropping the drinks as she ran, her mind spinning. They wouldn't just wander off. They knew better. Panic flooded her chest. She called their names again, louder, her voice cracking. People nearby began to notice, the woman at the vendor, a surfer waxing his board, an elderly couple reading under an umbrella. A few stood and looked around. Concerned, Monica ran to them. "Have you seen 2 little girls? Pink swimsuits? Just a minute ago they were right there." No one had. The couple shook their heads. The surfer looked confused. Monica's knees threatened to give out within her. She dialed 911 with trembling fingers. Within minutes, local law enforcement arrived. They searched the beach, questioned every witness, and gathered statements. Monica answered their questions over and over, her voice barely holding steady. The officers were kind, but their expressions turned grim with each passing hour. Helicopters swept overhead. Search dogs were dispatched just in case. That evening, after hours of searching, the officer in charge approached Monica as she sat on a rock, cradling the pink shovel in her hands. "We've covered every inch of this stretch of sand, ma'am," he said. "No footprints leading inland, no sign of a struggle, no belongings left behind. No one saw them leave. It's like they vanished into thin air." Monica stared at him, unblinking. "They didn't just vanish," she whispered. "Someone took them." That night, while the tide erased what little was left of the sandcastle, Monica stood alone on the beach. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just whispered their names into the wind, over and over. From that moment on, she refused to believe they were dead. Her gut told her otherwise, and a mother's instinct, she believed, was sharper than any investigation. In the days that followed, missing posters were printed. Her daughters' faces smiled from every Pole storefront and gas station in Southern California. A reward fund was created. National news picked up the story for a few days, offering sympathy but no new leads. As the weeks turned into months, tips dwindled, sightings proved false, and hope thinned. But Monica never stopped. She sold her home to fund the search, left her job as a veterinary technician, and traveled up and down the coast, handing out flyers, visiting shelters, appearing on Mobile Dome. Each time someone said, "You should move on," her resolve only hardened. They didn't know. Because when she closed her eyes each night, she could still hear their laughter echoing off the waves. 9 months had passed since that terrifying day on the beach, and yet every single morning, Monica Reyes woke up with the same thought echoing in her mind. Today might be the day. The hope never dimmed, though the world around her had long since moved on. The posters she had once distributed with urgent desperation were now weather-worn, peeled at the corners, or torn away completely. At the police station, she was a familiar face. Two familiar officers greeted her with practiced sympathy, their eyes saying what their mouths didn't dare. There was nothing left to find. But Monica refused to accept it. She had lost her husband to illness. There had been no way to fight that. But her daughters, they were taken. That's what she believed, with unwavering certainty. Children don't just vanish. Someone had them, and she was going to get them back. Each month she shifted her search to a new region. She started in Southern California, then moved north through Santa Cruz, then Oregon. When that turned up nothing, she crossed into Nevada, then Arizona. People thought she was crazy, driving state to state with laminated flyers and a tired car laps whenever it climbed hills. But Monica didn't care. It wasn't about looking sane, it was about not giving up. Last week she had arrived in Crescent City following a tip from a gas station clerk who claimed to have seen two little girls matching Lena and Mira's descriptions. It turned out to be false, just like all the others. Still, Monica left behind flyers, updated her map, and kept moving. She was now back in Southern California, this time exploring remote stretches of coastline rarely visited by tourists. That's what had brought her to this quiet strip of sand near Point Mugu. She was setting up a series of missing child posters along wooden stakes, the ocean breeze whipping her dark hair across her face as she dug into the sand. Each stake she planted felt like a promise, a vow that she would never stop. As she hammered the last one in with a rock, a soft voice behind her called out. Monica turned around. A tall man in a faded flight jacket stood about 10 feet away, his skin weathered and sun-darkened. His hair was tousled, wind-blown in a way that suggested he spent more time in the air than on the ground. "I'm sorry," Monica said, instinctively stepping back. "If I'm not allowed to post signs here, I can move them." "No, it's not that," the man said quickly, raising both hands. "I'm not with the city or anything. My name's David Sloan. I fly a small seaplane, mostly scenic flights and supply drops. I saw your sign just now and—" He hesitated, glancing at the photograph of Lena and Mira smiling in their swimsuits. "I think I've seen them." Monica's breath caught in her throat. She stood frozen, not daring to speak in case she misunderstood. "Where?" she finally managed. "A few days ago," David began, "I was flying low near one of the small islands off the coast. There's a place, doesn't even have a proper name, just marked as private land on aviation maps. It's off limits technically, but I was flying a little lower than I should have been and noticed some movement on the shore." He looked at the poster again. Two girls, same age, same hair. They were with two men, but the girls didn't look relaxed. They weren't playing, just standing there. Still. Monica's pulse thundered in her ears. "What island?" "It's off the Ventura coastline. Used to belong to some reclusive tech investor. Now it's managed by a shell corporation, the kind of place no one talks about but somehow always has activity." David pulled out his phone and showed Monica an aerial photo he'd snapped through his cockpit window. In the image, blurry but clear enough, two tiny figures could be seen near the tree line. "I don't want to give you false hope," he added, watching her closely, "but when I saw their faces just now, I couldn't walk away without saying something." Monica's hands trembled as she stared at the image. It was impossible to say for sure, but the shape of the older girl's braid, the slight lean of her shoulder, it matched Lena. Her heart knew. "Have you told the police?" she asked. David nodded. "I reported it. They said it was likely the children of the island's current occupants. That they checked the records and everything was in order?" Monica's jaw clenched. "Did anyone go out there to check in person?" "I don't think so," David said. "It sounded like they called someone and that was enough for them." Monica swore under her breath. "I've heard that before." "I can take you there," David said after a pause. "Not onto the island, but close enough. We can fly over, see if they're still there." Monica looked out at the ocean, the vast blue hiding everything and nothing all at once. "Let me make a call first." She stepped away and called her contact in the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. After a brief, fruitless conversation, too many procedural barriers, not enough immediate cause, she hung up. eyes blazing. "Let's go," she told David. "I'm not waiting for another committee to debate whether my daughters are worth the fuel." David gave a slack 10 minutes from here. As they walked, Monica's mind reeled. She had long stopped believing in coincidences. This wasn't one. 2 girls matching her daughter's appearance on a remote island owned by mysterious elites, and no one bothered to check. A rage burned inside her, the kind only a mother could feel. For 9 months she had been dismissed, pitied, placated. But this was the first real lead, and she wasn't about to let it disappear into red tape. In the distance, a gull called out as waves crashed onto the shore behind them. Monica didn't look back. Her daughters were out there. She could feel it. And now, for the first time since the day they vanished, she was no longer walking blind. David's seaplane was a rugged, sun-faded Cessna 208, with twin pontoons resting in the still waters of a private dock, tucked away behind a row of palm trees. Monica climbed into the passenger seat, the air inside thick with the scent of old leather and salt. David moved with the confident ease of someone who had spent a lifetime in the sky. As he completed the pre-flight checks, Monica clutched the edges of her seat, not from fear of flying, but from the electric tension knotting her chest. "How long until we reach the island?" she asked. "About 15 minutes, David replied, flipping switches and starting the engine. "The visibility's great today. If they're there, we'll see them." The engine roared to life, and within moments they were skimming across the water before lifting gracefully into the air. Monica stared out the window, the coastline shrinking behind them, the mainland blurring into a ribbon of green and gold. Her fingers tightened around the small stack of photos she carried, Lena and Mira grinning, a birthday cake between them, cheeks flushed with frosting and laughter. Her heart pounded louder with each passing mile. David pointed to the right. "There it is. That's the island." A sliver of land came into view, fringed by dense forest and a pristine beach, isolated and eerily quiet. From above, the place looked like paradise, but Monica didn't trust appearances anymore. David banked the plane slightly to give her a better view. Monica pressed her face to the glass, scanning the shoreline with hawk-like precision. Then she saw them. 2 small figures standing near the tree line. One was holding a bright red bucket. The other seemed to be looking toward the sea. Monica gasped. "That's them." "You're sure?" David asked. "Yes," she said without hesitation. "That's Lena's hair and Mira's posture. I know it." David circled the island slowly, trying to stay outside the no-fly boundary. "There are 2 men with them," Monica noted, her voice trembling. "All tall, one stocky. Neither of them looks familiar." "Do you want to go to the police now?" David asked. "Or—" Monica didn't answer immediately. Her eyes remained fixed on the figures below. "I need to know more first," she said finally. "We saw them. That's proof enough to demand an investigation. But if the local authorities are in on this, we need to be careful." David gave her a sharp look. "What do you mean?" "I've dealt with enough dead ends and closed doors to know when something's being hidden," Monica said. "Every time I've gotten close to something real, someone steps in and shuts it down. This island is owned by a private entity. That alone makes it harder to access. But now that we've seen the girls," her voice cracked, "we have to be strategic, not just emotional." David nodded slowly. "I know someone, a former detective, lives a few towns over. Retired, but still has contacts in the state police. Might be able to help." Monica didn't hesitate. "Take me to him." They landed near a marina an hour later and drove inland to a modest home nestled in the hills of Ventura County. The house belonged to Ben Carrick, a 58-year-old former detective with sharp eyes and a calm, deliberate demeanor. When David explained the situation, Ben invited them inside, poured strong coffee, and listened without interruption as Monica recounted everything, from the disappearance on the beach to the flyover that morning. "That island," Ben said finally, "has been in the hands of shell corporations for over a decade. Every time a journalist digs into it, the trail goes cold. No property records with real names, no tax history beyond vague entities in Nevada and the Caymans. It's designed to be invisible, so how do we get someone to act?" Monica asked. "I can make some calls," Ben said, "but it'll be slow. These things always are. Bureaucracy is allergic to urgency. And if there are people in power protecting that place, Red tape won't be the only barrier? Then what do we do? Marka demanded. Wait while they move my daughters to another island? Another country? Ben considered her for a long moment. You need confirmation, something you can't be talked down from. If you can get closer, capture images, record video, something undeniable, we can take it to the media. Once the public gets wind, no one can hide behind silence anymore. Monica nodded, jaw tight. Then that's what we'll do. That night, Monica stayed in a guest room at Ben's house. Sleep was impossible. Her mind churned through every possibility, every potential outcome. She had seen her daughters. They were alive. That single fact rewrote everything, but it also terrified her. If they were being held, why? Who were the men, and why were the authorities so reluctant to act? Just after midnight, David returned with a high-zoom camera and a set of night vision binoculars borrowed from a friend in the Coast Guard. We'll do another pass in the morning, he said. Low altitude, early light, best chance to catch something clear. Monica gripped the camera like a lifeline. She didn't care if it was dangerous. She would get what she needed. At dawn, they were back in the sky. The morning fog curled low along the coastline, but the sky above was a pristine canvas of soft gold. As they approached the island, Monica aimed the camera, her hands steady despite the turbulence. Through the lens, she saw them again. The girls were walking with one of the men, carrying what looked like plastic containers. She snapped picture after picture, zooming in as close as she could. Lena turned toward the plane briefly, her face caught in perfect focus. Monica's breath hitched. She had the proof. We've got enough, David said. Let's head back before someone down there gets suspicious. As they flew home, Monica reviewed the images. Each one confirmed what her heart had already known. Her daughters were alive, and someone had them. She didn't need permission anymore. She had evidence. And soon she would have justice. Monica sat in the corner of Ben Carrick's living room, a blanket draped over her lap and a steaming mug of untouched coffee resting on the side table. The morning sun poured in through the windows, but she felt no warmth from it. Her eyes were locked on the laptop screen, where the photos she had taken just hours earlier were displayed in high resolution. There was Lena, frozen in time, her small face turned upward toward the plane, sunlight catching her cheek. Behind her, Mira was slightly out of focus, holding what looked like a plastic bucket. Behind them loomed the tall, thin man Monica didn't recognize. This is it, Ben said, sitting beside her with a notepad. This changes everything. Monica nodded, her hands trembling slightly. I don't care what it takes, we're getting them out of there. Ben tapped the pen against his chin. First step, we go to the state police, but not through regular channels. I have contacts in Sacramento, people who don't answer to the locals. We take this directly to them. With your permission, I'll also reach out to a federal liaison I used to work with. Do it, Monica said without hesitation. And David. I'm here, the pilot called from the kitchen, where he was fixing a second round of coffee for everyone. He emerged a moment later, leaning against the doorway. What's the next move? While Ben handles the authorities, Monica said, her eyes sharp, I'm going to keep building pressure. The public needs to know. Ben raised an eyebrow. You're going public? Monica turned the laptop to show him a photo of the girls. If the police drag their feet, media attention will force them to act. We leak the photos, the island's location, and the fact that law enforcement has failed to investigate a credible tip. The internet will do the rest. Ben hesitated, clearly torn. It's risky. If the people holding your daughters realize they're exposed, they might move them, or worse. We don't act, Monica replied. They'll disappear anyway. This is our only leverage. By noon, Monica had sent an encrypted file to 3 independent journalists she trusted. She included a short statement detailing the girls' disappearances, the sighting, the flyover, and the refusal of local authorities to follow up. She didn't reveal names or identities, but she gave just enough to spark curiosity and concern. Within hours, hashtags began to spread. Find Lena and Mira, HISON children, Hidden Truth California. Social media lit up with speculation and outrage. The story gained traction with astonishing speed. Meanwhile, Ben made contact with a senior investigator in Sacramento named Agent Natalie Reyes. She arranged an urgent call with Monica and promised to dispatch a small covert team to investigate the island. We've suspected shady dealings around that property for years, Natalie said, but it's so well insulated we never had cause to penetrate. Your photos change that. Sit tight. Don't go near the island again. Let us handle this. That night, as Monica sat on the porch of Ben's home, staring out into the dark hills, David joined her. You think the authorities will actually do something this time? He asked. Monica sighed. They have to. I've done everything I can short of swimming to that island, to Batson. David chuckled softly. You probably would if it came to that. Monica smiled faintly, but her expression quickly turned serious. I keep thinking about how calm they looked. My girls, not scared, not crying. It's like they've been trained, David finished. Monica nodded slowly. Exactly, like they were coached. And that man, the tall one, he didn't look like a father figure. He looked like someone watching property. David leaned forward, lowering his voice. Do you think this is part of something bigger? Monica didn't answer immediately. Then she said, I think this island is just one piece, and I think they've done this before. The next morning, Ben received a call from Agent Reyes. We've deployed an observation unit to the island perimeter, she said. Nothing overt yet, but we've confirmed activity consistent with child habitation. We're preparing to coordinate with Homeland Security and the Coast Guard for a full approach. But we'll need one thing from you. What? Ben asked. Testimony, Monica's first-hand account, and those photos authenticated by a forensic analyst. She'll do it, Ben confirmed. Monica spent the next 2 hours giving a detailed, recorded statement under remote supervision. Every word was documented, every timeline checked. By afternoon, Reyes called again. We're moving tonight, quietly. The fewer people who know, the better. Ben relayed the message. Monica's heart raced. This was it. After 9 agonizing months, they were finally going in. That evening, while the sun dipped below the Pacific, painting the sky in molten hues, Monica sat with Ben and David in front of a muted TV as the breaking news scroll flashed across the bottom of the screen. Federal authorities investigating Prophet Island off California coast, potential human trafficking links, more to follow. Monica didn't blink. They better bring them back, she whispered. At 3:27 a.m., her phone rang. She answered before the first ring even finished. Is Agent Reyes. We have them, she said. Monica's knees buckled and she dropped to the floor, sobbing in relief. Your daughters are safe, alive, being examined now by medical professionals. We also recovered 2 other children and arrested 5 adults. Thank you, Monica choked out. Thank you. It's not over for you, said it gently, but tonight at least your girls are going home. Monica hung up and collapsed into David's arms. For the first time in months, the silence didn't feel heavy. It felt full. The next morning, Monica stood at the hospital doors, waiting as 2 nurses wheeled Lena and Mira toward her. Their faces were pale, eyes heavy with confusion and fatigue, but they were alive. Mira saw her first. Mama, she whispered. Monica ran to them, wrapping her arms around both girls, tears soaking their hair. You found us, Lena murmured. Monica nodded, holding them tighter. I never stopped looking. The hospital room smelled of antiseptic and faint lavender from the hand cream the nurse had used moments before. Sunlight streamed through the large window, casting a golden halo on the crisp white bedsheets. Monica sat between her daughter's beds, one hand resting on Lena's leg, the other gently brushing hair from Mira's forehead. They had been given mild sedatives to help them sleep, and now, for the first time in 9 months, Monica could watch them breathe without terror. Every rise and fall of their small chests was a sacred rhythm. David Sloan stood quietly in the corner, arms crossed, eyes scanning the room like he was protecting them. A nurse entered with a clipboard, nodding politely. Vitals are stable. They're responding well. No signs of long-term physical trauma, just mild dehydration and fatigue. Thank you, Monica said, her voice still raw. The nurse left, leaving them in a heavy silence. David stepped closer. You did it, Monica. Monica looked at him, eyes red. We did it. You didn't walk away. Most people would have. I saw the poster and couldn't forget their faces, he said simply. That was all it took. Monica turned back to the girls. Now, I just want answers. I want to know what they went through. Who those people were. Why no one saw anything? Her voice tightened. and I want to make sure this never happens to anyone else's child." Later that afternoon, Agent Natalie Ruiz arrived at the hospital with a folder under her arm and a look of cautious relief. "Can we talk?" she asked. Monica nodded, and they stepped into a small consultation room down the hall. "The girls are being guarded," Ruiz assured her. "The 2 men arrested on the island are in federal custody, and the woman found with them is being interrogated as we speak." "A woman?" Monica asked, surprised. "Yes, she posed as a caretaker. She claims the children were brought there for safety." That's the story they're trying to sell. Reyes opened the folder and slid over several photos. One showed a lavish interior, marble floors, chandeliers, expensive art. This was the main house on the island. "The woman stayed here with the children while the men rotated shifts. We found clothing for several children, not just yours." Monica's jaw tightened. "They've done this before?" "That's what we believe," the Reyes confirmed. "This appears to be part of a much larger operation. These people use private islands, luxury estates, and offshore accounts to create an illusion of legitimacy while trafficking children under the radar." "So my daughters were part of some kind of network?" "Yes, but we think they were in the early stages of integration," Ruiz explained. "They were told to refer to the captors as family, given gifts, rehearse scripts. The goal is to manipulate the child into compliance, so when questioned, they appear unhappy and willingly placed." Monica swallowed hard, trying not to scream. "What now?" "Now we dig deeper," Ruiz said. "The man you saw, tall, mid-40s, his name is Marcus Devlin. He's connected to a hedge fund with holdings in 6 countries. He also has ties to a private child wellness foundation under investigation for financial irregularities." Monica scoffed. "Of course, hiding behind philanthropy." "We're coordinating with Interpol and Homeland Security," Ruiz continued. "This is going federal. Your case might have cracked something enormous." "Good," Monica said. "Use it. Use everything." Ruiz paused, then added, "The girls will need therapy, long-term counseling. This kind of trauma, it changes them, but the fact that they had each other may have helped them survive emotionally intact." Monica nodded. "We'll get them help. I'll get them help. I just want them to be kids again, not survivors." That night, Monica returned to the hospital room with a notebook in hand. She sat beside her daughters, who were awake now, sipping juice and watching an old cartoon on the mounted television. "How are you feeling, babies?" she asked gently. "They gave us cookies," Lena smiled faintly, but her eyes were wary. "Mommy, are we safe now?" Monica cupped her daughter's cheek. "Yes, sweetheart, we're safe. No one's going to take you again." Lena looked down. "They said you were gone, that you didn't want us anymore." Monica's heart shattered all over again. "Never. I never stopped looking, not for a second. They lied to you?" Mira looked up. "They told us your name was something else. We had to say it that way, or they got mad." Monica hugged them both. "You never have to lie again. You're home, and I will never leave your side." In the following days, Monica's story dominated the news. Interviews, press conferences, op-eds, all demanding justice, transparency, and reform. She gave interviews not for fame, but to keep the issue alive, to speak for the parents who still waited, who hadn't gotten their children back. She was approached by nonprofits, attorneys, even a senator's aide who suggested testifying before a congressional hearing. Monica agreed. If her pain could spark policy, it was worth every relived nightmare. Meanwhile, Ruiz's task force expanded the investigation. More children were identified through clues found on the island, photos, clothing tags, scribbled names in journals. Some had been missing for years. The media named it the Island Case. But for Monica, it was never about the island. It was about Lena and Mira, about the fight, and about what came next. One afternoon, as she sat by the window at the hospital reading a children's book aloud, Mira looked up. "Mommy, when we go home, can we get pancakes every single day?" And in that moment, amidst trauma and uncertainty, the smallest promise held the greatest power. 1 week after their rescue, Lena and Mira Reyes were discharged from St. Dominic's Medical Center under the cautious approval of their trauma team. The sun was shining, and the air in Santa Barbara smelled like salt and jasmine as Monica drove her daughters home. They sat quietly in the back seat, clutching stuffed animals gifted by the hospital staff. Mira leaned her head against the window, humming softly to herself while Lena stared straight ahead, her expression unreadable. Monica glanced at them through the rearview mirror, her heart aching. She had imagined this ride hundreds of times, visualized balloons, laughter, maybe even a family dog waiting at home. But trauma had a way of stealing innocence without a trace. The house she had rented temporarily while continuing her search now felt both unfamiliar and sacred, as though it had been waiting for their return. Inside, the walls were adorned with drawings and photos from the past, every surface curated with love and anticipation. The girls explored slowly, reacquainting themselves with the space. In the living room, Mira found a music box that had belonged to Gabriel, their father. She opened it carefully. The soft melody filled the room, and Mira began to cry, quietly, shoulders shaking. Monica dropped to her knees and pulled her close. Lena stood in the hallway, watching, not moving. "It's okay to cry," Monica whispered to Mira. "It's okay to feel everything." Later that evening, after a simple dinner of pancakes just like Monica had promised, she tucked the girls into bed. But sleep didn't come easily. Mira clung to her mother's arm. Lena kept asking if the doors were locked. The shadows outside the windows seemed darker now. At 3 a.m., Monica found herself awake, sitting in the hallway with her laptop and a notepad. She had been receiving dozens of emails daily, parents of other missing children, journalists, organizations offering help or requesting her voice. Her inbox was a mix of grief, gratitude, and desperation. One email caught her eye. It was from a woman named Vanessa Clay, a social worker based in Texas. Vanessa had seen Monica's interviews and believed she had worked with a child who had briefly vanished in circumstances eerily similar to Lena and Mira's. She attached a file, a drawing made by a young girl, showing a large house by the water and several children inside. One of them, circled in red crayon, had dark hair and a pink dress. The message read, "I think this is part of the same ring." Monica stared at the drawing. It was rough, childlike, but there was something hauntingly familiar about it. She forwarded it to Agent Reyes immediately. The next morning, Reyes called. "We've been getting dozens of similar reports. Vanessa Clay's information is credible. Her drawing matches one of the rooms we found on the island. We also discovered evidence suggesting there are more children being kept in similar properties, some domestic, some abroad." "What can I do?" Monica asked. "Help us connect the dots," Reyes said. "Your reach is powerful now. We need people to come forward, survivors, staff, witnesses. If they see you asking, they'll trust it's safe." Monica agreed. That afternoon, she recorded a short video from her living room. Sitting between her daughters, but brave, she looked into the camera and said, "My name is Monica Reyes. I'm not a celebrity. I'm not a politician. I'm a mother who found her children after nearly losing them forever. What happened to Lena and Mira is happening to others. Right now, if you know something, anything, please come forward." You can save lives. Within 24 hours, the video had been shared over 8 million times. Victims from Florida, Oregon, even Canada began reaching out. A whistleboat who once worked security for a private jet charter came forward anonymously, revealing that he had been hired as a tutor for a private family on an island estate. Another woman claimed she had been hired as a tutor for a private family on an island estate, only to quit after suspecting the children were not related. Agent Reyes called Monica again. "You've started a movement," she said, "and it's shaking cages." But the backlash came swiftly. An anonymous social media account began circulating claims that Monica had fabricated her daughter's kidnapping for fame. Conspiracy sites twisted the narrative, accusing her of being part of the very ring she was trying to expose. One morning, she woke up to find her car tires slashed. A note was left on her porch. "Shut up or your girls go missing again." Monica's hands trembled as she held the note. She immediately called Ben Carrick, who had remained quietly in the background, monitoring things from his own home. "They're trying to scare you," he said, "which means you're threatening them. That's a good thing." Monica laughed bitterly. "Doesn't feel good." "They're watching," Ben said, "but so are we. I'm pulling in favors from my old unit. We'll rotate surveillance on your house. Quietly. Nobody's going to touch your girls again." The next day, Monica gave another interview. When asked about the threats, she didn't flinch. "I'm not backing down," she said on national television. And if you're scared of a grieving mother with a voice, maybe you're part of the problem. That same week, Reyes' team made another major arrest, an airline official who had falsified records for nearly a decade, covering international child transport disguised as private adoptions. Monica's photos had led directly to a dozen investigations worldwide. Every victory felt heavy, like it had come at great cost. But each time Mira reached for her hand or Lena rested her head on her shoulder, Monica knew it was worth it. On the last day of the week, as they sat on the back porch watching the sunset, Mira turned to Monica and asked, "Are you going to stop now?" Monica looked at her daughters, their eyes filled with a mix of pain and resilience. "No," she said softly. "This story isn't finished. We still have work to do." 2 weeks had passed since Monica Reyes publicly declared she would not be silenced, and though the media spotlight had begun to shift, her resolve had only grown sharper. The days were filled with calls from investigators, lawyers, advocacy groups, and distraught families hoping for answers. Lena and Mira were slowly settling into a new rhythm. Therapy sessions with a trauma-informed child psychologist were helping them unpack the weight of what they'd experienced. Some days they laughed freely, racing each other through the garden or giggling over burnt pancakes. Other days shadows lingered behind their eyes, and simple noises made them flinch. Monica remained patient, present, but every smile from her daughters came with a silent reminder. So many other children were still missing. That thought consumed her. She started compiling a database, every story sent to her, every name, every location, every detail. What started as a document on her laptop grew into a 300-page dossier of patterns, maps, connections. With help from Ben Carrick and Agent Reyes, Monica uncovered an unsettling revelation. Many of the missing children had ties to international travel retreats hosted by elite philanthropic organizations. These trips, often disguised as wellness retreats or educational exchanges, were sometimes fronts for trafficking operations. Monica highlighted one organization in particular, the Solstice Foundation. It operated globally and had hosted retreats near 3 different sites where survivors claimed they had been kept. It had ties to the same hedge fund behind the island where Lena and Mira had been found. Agent Reyes was stunned. "We've been looking at Solstice for years," she admitted, "but we could never prove anything. They bury their tracks well." Made a mistake. They repeated locations, and someone left a logo sticker on a laptop recovered from the island. That was the break Reyes needed. Within days, a multi-adjustum investigation was greenlit. Federal warrants were prepared. Undercover operatives began infiltrating the Foundation's upcoming event, a weekend summit in Napa Valley. Reyes asked Monica to remain silent about the operation. "If word gets out, they'll disappear again," she warned. Monica agreed, but that didn't stop her from mobilizing. Behind the scenes, she coordinated with whistleblowers, attorneys, and families. They formed a coalition, the Light Initiative, a watchdog group to pressure Congress, push for new legislation, and provide resources for parents of the missing. The name was chosen by Lena, who said, "We need light to find the dark." Monica's story was no longer just a headline. It was a movement. But the darkness pushed back harder. One morning, Ben called her with concern. "Your name just appeared on a watch list," he said. "Someone hacked into a private law enforcement database and flagged you as a hostile actor. It's false, obviously, but it's meant to discredit you." Monica sighed. "Let them come. I'm not hiding." But later that week, her website was taken offline by a sophisticated DOS attack. A private investigator she had hired to look into the Solstice Foundation was followed home and threatened. "They're getting desperate," Reyes told her, "which means we're close." The night before the planned operation in Napa, Monica couldn't sleep. She sat on her front porch, the wind rustling through the eucalyptus trees, the sky a deep indigo quilt sprinkled with stars. She thought about all the families who had written to her, faces she'd never met, children who might never be found. She prayed silently, not out of habit, but from pure, aching hope. The next day, at precisely 4:32 p.m., federal agents raided the retreat. They found 3 minors in a locked room. 4 men and 2 women were arrested. Documents, digital devices, and coded files were seized. Solstice's founder, Malcolm Avery, was taken into custody at a private airport while attempting to board a jet bound for the Cayman Islands. Monica was briefed by Reyes personally. "You got him," she said. "And your file helped tie it together. Without your timeline, we would have missed the connections. You just exposed one of the most protected trafficking rings in the Western Hemisphere." Monica didn't cry. She just nodded, a storm of exhaustion and triumph swirling silently inside her. That evening she held her daughters close. "The bad people are going away," she told them. "We helped stop them." Mira blinked sleepily. "Are more kids coming home now?" "I hope so, baby," Monica whispered. "We're trying." Over the next few days, the Light Initiative's hotline received hundreds of tips. Several led to real-time rescues. Local stations, embassies, and NGOs began collaborating in ways they hadn't before. A groundswell of public pressure led to a Senate hearing where Monica was invited to testify. She stood before a packed chamber, cameras broadcasting live. Her voice was clear, steady. "I am not a politician. I am not a lawyer. I am a mother. I should not have had to do this. I should not have had to search alone, chase, gather evidence, but I did. And now I am asking you to do your part, because our children deserve better." Her words echoed across the nation. Lena and Mira watched the testimony from home, wrapped in blankets, eyes wide. Afterward, Mira turned to her sister. "Mommy's like a superhero." Lena nodded, but not with a cape, with a notebook. In that moment, Monica's mission became something greater than rescue. It became reform. And she knew, without question, she wouldn't stop until every missing child had a name, a story, and a chance to come home. The days following Monica Reyes' Senate testimony were a whirlwind of headlines, calls from advocacy groups, and legislative meetings. Her words had sparked more than just emotion, they had ignited a national reckoning. News outlets dubbed it the Reyes effect, a wave of public accountability that pushed anti-trafficking forms faster than any similar cause in years. But for Monica, the true victory lay not in sound bites, but in outcome. Her daughters were sleeping through the night again. Mira no longer jumped at loud noises. Lena had started drawing again, filling pages with hopeful skies and sunshine, imagery that had vanished from her notebook since the island. Still, Monica knew their healing journey was far from over. And neither was her mission. One morning, Agent Natalie Reyes called with a grim update. "We've cracked open some of Malcolm Avery's encrypted files," she said. "What we found confirms something we feared. This operation is global. The island was just one of 6. Monica's breath caught. 6 islands? Yes. But not all are still active. One was abandoned last year. Another is under construction off the West African coast. We've identified supply chains, shell corporations, even bribed officials in multiple governments." "How do we stop them?" Monica asked, feeling both fury and fatigue. "We keep exposing them," Reyes said, "and we need your help again." That afternoon, Monica was escorted to a secure federal building in Los Angeles, where she reviewed hundreds of redacted files, photos, and surveillance reports. Among them, a blurry image froze her cold, children in a dusty yard somewhere in Eastern Europe. The younger girl was wearing Mira's missing hair clip. "This can't be coincidence," she whispered. The analyst beside her nodded. "We believe these children were relocated from the same island. The clip could have been passed between them or kept as a memento. Either way, it's a connection." Reyes stepped into the room. "We need someone public to help with international cooperation. These governments move slow unless they're embarrassed into action." "You're the face of this now, Monica. That carries weight." "So what are you asking?" Monica said. Reyes hesitated. "Come with us. We're forming an international task force. First stop is Geneva, then The Hague. If you can testify and speak with victims' families in person, it may be the push we need to get access to key regions." Monica didn't answer right away. She looked at the photo again, the clip, the yard, 2 children staring into nothing. "I'll go," she said finally. "But my daughters come first. They need to be safe, cared for, stable." "We'll arrange everything," Reyes promised. 24/7 protection. "They'll be guarded better than the president." Within a week, Monica was on a plane to Switzerland. She left Lena and Mira in the care of Ben Carrick and a team of trusted professionals, with daily video calls arranged. The girls cried at the airport, and so did she. But deep down, they all understood. This was not goodbye. This was justice in motion. In Geneva, Monica addressed the United Nations Committee on the Rights of the Child. Her speech was translated into 12 languages. Delegates from over 40 countries heard her story. Some wept, others took furious notes. "We live in a world where children are stolen in daylight," she said, "where power protects predators, where silence becomes complicity. But I am here to tell you, no more." Her words ricocheted. Indifferent began submitting cooperation agreements. Interpol prioritized new leads. A month later, a raid on a remote complex in Tunisia uncovered 6 missing children. 2 were siblings taken from Florida 3 years prior. The family called Monica personally. "We never thought we'd hear their voices again," the mother sobbed. "You gave us that." Monica traveled to The Hague next, speaking before the International Criminal Court's advisory panel. The Solstice Foundation was officially designated as a front for international trafficking. Warrants were expanded, funds were frozen, but the backlash grew stronger too. Anonymous death threats escalated. An email leaked her location in Geneva. Her hotel was evacuated after a suspicious package was found in the lobby. It was ultimately harmless, but the message was clear. Someone wanted her quiet. Reyes's team relocated her to a secure compound in northern Italy, while Solstice and related charities, some of them were high-ranking executives, others were elected officials. Monica watched from afar as her home country tore open a wound that had long been festering beneath wealth and diplomacy. One night, she received a call from Ben. "The girls are okay," he assured her. "But Lena's been asking questions." Monica sat on her bed, tears silently falling. "She wants to know why kids like her are being hurt," Ben added. "She wants to help." Monica smiled through the ache. "Sure he is." When Monica finally returned to California 6 weeks later, she arrived without cameras, without a press event. Just a mother returning home. Lena and Mira ran into her arms at the airport, burying their faces in her coat. "Did you stop the bad guys?" Mira asked. Monica held her tighter. "Some of them, but we're not done yet." Later that evening, she tucked them into bed and whispered, "I'm never leaving again, unless—" Mira yawned. "Can we help you next time?" Monica kissed her forehead. "You already are, just by being brave." Outside their window, the wind whispered through the trees, and for the first time in many months, Monica allowed herself to believe light could outlast even the darkest storm. Monica Reyes had always believed that justice was a destination, something you reached after hardship, after persistence. But as she sat in the newly constructed headquarters of the Light Initiative in downtown Los Angeles, surrounded by files, maps, screens, and exhausted volunteers, she realized that justice was not a place at all. It was a process, a constantly shifting struggle that demanded vigilance, a flame you had to guard every single day. Since returning from Europe, Monica's life had been a delicate balancing act between motherhood and movement building. Lena and Mira were enrolled in a private school with trauma-informed educators. Monica walked them to class each morning, kissed their foreheads, and reminded them they were safe. But once the classroom doors closed, she stepped back into a world where safety was never guaranteed. The Light Initiative had grown exponentially. With satellite teams in 5 states, legal partnerships, and over 200 cases under review, it had become more than an organization. It was a lifeline. Each morning, Monica reviewed new case files, many of them so hauntingly familiar it made her hands shake. Photos of children with the same wary eyes, parents writing from desperation, tips sent anonymously from insiders terrified of exposure. The media had somewhat moved on, attention drifting toward politics, celebrity scandal, global crises, but Monica kept the fire burning. She gave interviews sparingly now, choosing platforms that prioritized substance over spectacle. She met with senators, drafted policy with survivors, and trained law enforcement units on identifying coded trafficking behaviors. One afternoon, Agent Natalie Reyes visited the LA office, unannounced, her expression unusually tense. "We found another location," she said quietly. Pulling out a tablet. On it was a satellite image of a mansion deep in the Arizona desert, surrounded by high fences and guard dogs. Of the former Solstice associates flipped, said this was a training facility, not for the kids, but for the handlers. Monica leaned forward, her voice cold. "How many children are there now?" "Unknown. Maybe none. It could have been emptied once the heat rose. But the source insists there's still movement, vehicles coming and going at night. Deliveries. Short-term stays. What do you need from me? Monica asked. Reyes hesitated. The Justice Department wants someone public to accompany the task force. They think your presence will make it harder for any local officials to interfere. You'll be under protection, but it's risky. Monica didn't flinch. I'll go. Within 48 hours, Monica was on a Black Ops chopper heading toward a stretch of barren land outside Yuma. She wore body armor under her clothes, her ID badge clipped to a lanyard, beside a radio. The raid happened just after dusk. Federal agents breached the perimeter silently, dogs muzzled and sedated. Drones swept overhead, thermal sensors scanning the compound. Inside they found 2 children, both overhead of 10, huddled in a soundproof room beneath the main house. There were chains bolted to the walls, toys still in their packaging, and a whiteboard listing behavioral goals. Monica had seen horrors before, but this room undid her. She knelt beside the children, whispering soft reassurances until paramedics arrived. One boy reached for her hand and wouldn't let go. His name was Tyler. He didn't speak a word. After the children were taken to safety, agents scoured the compound. Computers were seized, files bagged, photographs pulled from walls. One of the images made Monica's knees buckle. It was a picture of Mira, taken during the first weeks of her disappearance from a surveillance camera she hadn't known existed. Reyes found her minutes later, still holding the photograph, her face pale. They had a network, Monica said hoarsely. Not just for keeping them, for cataloging them. Yes, Reyes confirmed. We think it was part of a bidding system, high-value profiles, online auctions, channels chained. But we weren't, Reyes reminded her. Because you didn't stop. Over the following days, the Light Initiative received a surge of calls, some from families who recognized objects found in the Arizona mansion, others from survivors identifying rooms and procedures. The compound had been a training ground, yes, but also a marketplace. The evidence collected led to a chain reaction. Within 2 weeks, 38 arrests were made across 4 countries. Monica didn't celebrate. She sat in her kitchen with a cup of cold tea, staring at the clock, wondering how many more children had never made it home. That night she sat with Lena and Mira on the porch swing. The sky was streaked with orange and lavender, the horizon calm for once. Mira cuddled beside her. Why do the bad people want kids? Monica took a long breath. Because some people confuse power with possession, but we're making sure they can't do that anymore. Lena looked up. What happens if they come back? Monica kissed the top of her head. Then they'll find a lot more people waiting for them, and we're not afraid anymore. The next morning, Monica received a letter. No return address. Inside was a simple piece of paper with a crayon drawing 2 stick girls, holding hands, standing beside a woman with brown hair. A heart floated above them. On the back, in shaky handwriting, were the words, "You saved us too." Monica folded the letter and held it against her chest. For the first time in months, she let herself cry, not from pain, but from knowing that the darkness was losing ground. It had been nearly a year since Lena and Mira Reyes were found on that hidden island off the California coast, and though the world had changed in irrevocable ways, Monica still marked time in 2 parts, before the vanishing and after. On a warm spring afternoon in May, she stood at the front of a packed community center in Pasadena, dressed in a simple navy blouse and black slacks, holding a microphone with steady hands. Around her were the families of survivors, activists, counselors, and law enforcement officers who had once called her just a grieving mother, but who now referred to her as the voice that sparked a global movement. Today was the official launch of the Children's Justice Act Reformation Bill, a sweeping piece of federal legislation designed to close legal loopholes in international child trafficking laws, and improve early response systems and increase funding for trauma recovery. Monica wasn't just attending, she was the one who wrote the first draft. As she stepped to the podium, the crowd quieted. She looked down at her notes, then up at the sea of faces, some hopeful, some tear-streaked, all listening. "My name is Monica Reyes," she began. "I am the mother of 2 daughters who were taken, who were lost to me for 9 months, and who, by some miracle, came back. But this story isn't just about them. It's about all the children who never made it home, about the families still waiting, about the silence that let it happen. She paused, voice catching, then continued, "We found Lena and Mira. I thought the story had ended. But what I've learned is that justice is not a finish line. It's a promise, a daily deliberate choice to fight for those who have no voice. This law is not a cure, but it's a beginning, and I dedicate it to every child still out there in the dark, waiting to be seen." A plash thundered around the room, many rising to their feet. Cameras flashed, but Monica's eyes found only two faces, Lena and Mira, sitting in the front row, holding hands. Later that evening, back at their modest home on the outskirts of town, Monica tucked her daughters into bed. The house was quieter now, not from absence, but from peace. The walls no longer echoed with sobs or the rattling nerves of sleepless nights. Now there was calm, laughter, healing. "Mom," Mira whispered, clutching a small plush rabbit, "did we make the law too?" Monica smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her daughter's face. "You did more than that. You made people care." Lena leaned up on one elbow. "Are there still bad people out there?" Monica's face softened. "Yes, sweetheart, but there are more good people now, strong people, people who saw what happened and said, 'Never again.'" The girls nodded, comforted not by the idea of safety, but by the knowledge that their story had meaning beyond fear, that they had mattered, that they still did. Over the following weeks, Monica stepped back from media appearances and interviews. The movement she started no longer depended solely on her. It had grown into something self-sustaining, a web of survivors, mothers, teachers, agents, and volunteers who carried the flame forward. She returned to smaller things, making school lunches, walking to the bookstore, planting jasmine in the backyard. But she never stopped answering the letters. Every day she received dozens, sometimes hundreds from around the world, children thanking her, parents begging for help, whistleblowers risking everything. One day she received a letter from a man named Lucas, once a guard at one of the offshore properties. He wrote from prison, saying he had read about her case and couldn't sleep anymore. "I thought I was just following orders," he wrote, "but then I saw your daughter's face on the news, and I remembered her. She smiled at me once. I've never forgiven myself. I hope my testimony helps." "I'm sorry," Monica wept as she folded the letter, not because she forgave him, but because it reminded her of something Reyes had told her once, that even in places of evil, conscience sometimes stirred. That seeds of change could be planted in the most unlikely soil. On the one-year anniversary of the rescue, the Light Initiative held a memorial at the beach where Lena and Mira had disappeared. It wasn't just to honor the pain, it was to reclaim the space. Dozens gathered in the golden light of late afternoon. Candles were lit, names were read. Monica stood with her daughters, now 8 and 9, their feet bare in the sand. They scattered white flower petals into the waves. Mira turned to her mother. "Do you think the ocean remembers?" Monica looked out over the shimmering water. "I think it remembers everything, but today it remembers hope." As dusk fell, families began to depart, but Monica lingered, watching the horizon. David Sloan, the pilot who had first spotted the girls on the island, approached quietly. "They've grown," he said. "So have you," Monica replied. David handed her a small package. Inside was a framed photo, the one he'd taken from the plane, grainy but unmistakable. Two little girls on a beach, waving toward the sky. "Thought you might want this," he said. Monica held it tightly. "You changed our lives." "You changed mine," David said, then nodded and stepped away, giving her space. As the last sliver of sun dipped beneath the water, Monica stood alone for a moment, wind tugging at her hair. In the distance, the waves whispered, just as they had the day everything began. But this time, the tide brought something different. Not fear, not despair, but a deep, resonant peace. Because sometimes the story that begins with vanishing ends not with answers, but with the power to save someone else. And that, Monica now understood, was the truest kind of ending. If this story moved you or kept you on the edge of your seat, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more real-life inspired mystery. We're curious, where in the world are you watching from? Drop your location in the comments and let us know what part of the story shocked you the most. Was it the island discovery, the secret files, or the final rescue? We read every comment and love hearing your thoughts. Stay with us for the next untold story